Lynne White is the next speaker. She is also known as AwesomismMom, and is a longtime autism advocate and an activist. She is the mom of 4 children, and her youngest is on the autism spectrum. She fights for autistic adults. She and her autistic son, Peyton, own Team Awesomism LLC, which is a community for autistic adults. They help autistic adults become financially independent. She's also a blogger, podcaster, author, and speaker. And with that, I will introduce Lynne White.
Team Awesomism is owned by me and my adult autistic son, Peyton. And I say this in all sincerity, I could not run Team Awesomism without Peyton, but Peyton couldn't run it without me. Peyton's just shy, so he wasn't interested in speaking. So what is Team Awesomism? Well, we are basically a grassroots organization, and what we do is we help with strategy. We're not the ones that are providing all the services, we are the ones that are helping you find the services. We just literally yesterday were able to launch our app. It will be available very soon. We have a full service app, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of work. So we have a lot going on. So what exactly is Grassroots? I hear this term being used all the time, and it's used incorrectly. It drives me crazy. I was in politics for 30 years. I jokingly say, I know I'm going to heaven because I've done my time in hell. So I lived in DC, so I was in the heart of it all. What is the grassroots approach? A grassroots movement or action is one that uses the people in a given district, region, or community as the basis for a movement. Grassroots movements and organizations work together from the local level to implement change at the local, regional, national, and international levels. Basically, what I do and what we do at Team Awesomism is we work with people that start with a template. So, for example, if you live in a rural community or you live in a large community and you do not feel that your police force is properly trained for autism, there is a very good solution for that. It's called Tom Island, okay, who's right there, okay? Tom is an autistic adult who trained the Los Angeles Police Department. If you can train the largest, you can train the smallest, okay? We can no longer ignore these kind of situations because we have too many times where people do not understand different behavioral patterns of autistics. And I was speaking with one of the police officers here because we live here, and he said to me, if you knew how many phone calls we get saying, oh my goodness, there's someone here at the coffee shop or in the restaurant or something that we think is really on drugs, and the police officer gets there and it's an autistic. This is something that we have got to change. Now, thank goodness, where I live, the police department is trained to understand that, but there's many that aren't. This can go from bad to worse in a very quick period of time. So I don't care if you have a police department of just a few to a police department like Los Angeles or Houston or Chicago, and I've had people say to me, well, Lynn, the problem is our county is small and we don't have the resources. Well, here's an idea. Bring in Tom virtually to teach you or have him come, and bring in 3 other departments in the area. Combine your resources. When all you want to do is find excuses why you can't fix things, you're never going to fix them. When I was young and I would come in the house and complain to my dad, this drove me crazy, but my dad would always say to me, I would complain about stuff and rant and rave, and my dad would just sit there and look at me. And I would be like, are you going to say anything? And he'd be like, no, because I haven't heard one solution in your entire rant. All I've heard is you complaining, so I'm letting you complain. Now, when you come to me with some sort of solution, it may not be the right solution, we have a starting point. That's what we're trying to be at Team Awesomism, is that starting point. Last night I got woken up at 1 o'clock in the morning from a woman whose brother has been incarcerated. He has shut down. He will not talk. They think he is just doing this. They don't realize because they don't understand autism. She said, please help me. I said, what do you need? She said, I need an expert to speak to his attorney so his attorney can relay to the court. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an expert. I'm a parent. But guess what? Team Awesomism has resources. I connected her this morning with someone, and they called the attorney. And no, Tom, I didn't bother you with it. Trust me, you were the first name that came to my head, though. Poor Tom. I can't tell you how many times I've texted Tom and said, Tom, can you help with this? You know, like he doesn't have his own life. So, but that's a grassroots approach. We don't need to always have to be the person that fixes the problem. We can be the person that brings other people to fix the problem. And by the way, the best voice in the autism world is that of an autistic. Like today, Temple goes to walk off the stage, everybody swarms her. Why? Because Temple is an expert at autism. Why? Because she's been doing it for 77 years, 24/7, okay? So Team Awesomism believes very strongly that starting at the local level, where you're in a rural area or a big city, has a greater impact in the end. Getting local elected officials, teachers, store owners, religious leaders, police, and others on board is essential. Once a strong narrative of how autism is a spectrum, and that is something that I think we don't say enough. It is a spectrum. It is a spectrum. What Peyton can do may not be what another autistic can do, but that doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It means that their needs may be different. And I think once we inside the autism community change the narrative to what they can't do and start talking about what they can do, I think we will see a much stronger approach out there in society, and I think we will change the dialogue for the autistics. And the best person to change that narrative is the autistic. Thanks. There are many times that I have felt like, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And I will say to Peyton, do you agree? And he'll be like, no. I'll be, why not? And he'll say, because I don't think that's the right approach. Okay, well, can you ask your friends? Because he's got this little network of autistic adults that they talk every day, all day. Like, they're always talking to each other. I mean, they're a great little network, but you know, sometimes I'm like, Peyton, can we work on this? 10 minutes, I'm on my FaceTime. I'm like, okay. And I'll say to him, can you ask them? 99% of the time, he comes back with the answer that was his answer. No, we don't need to do it that way. We thought of this way. That's the difference between me being a parent and him being on the spectrum, is he looks at things differently. They look at things differently, and they're in all different age groups. His friends are in all different age groups. Peyton is the youngest, he's 25. There's some in there that are in their 50s, and there's some of them who have been the most left behind. Because years ago, we did many times when we didn't know to talk about the spectrum. Temple was very lucky. She had a parent who was willing to spend their time with her and do it. That wasn't true with all. Peyton has a friend whose mother did not even realize this until too late. The mother is in her 70s, the daughter's in her 50s. She only has one sibling. He's an alcoholic. He wants nothing to do with his sister. He doesn't want to take her on. And the mother has nowhere else to go, and she doesn't have enough money saved to put her somewhere. Now, thank goodness the church that we went to is going to step in and help. But that's where we connect the disconnect. We have to connect those little pieces and not be flippant with answers. One of the things that drives me crazy is when I will have a situation that someone will bring to me in the autism community, and I'll say to other people, this is the situation, and their response to me is, we have programs for that. And my attitude is, yes, we do have programs for that, and they may have a 3-year waiting list. What do we do for 3 years? Or maybe it's not in their area. So let's start changing the narrative. How we identify the community's biggest concerns, I've already gone over this. Talk to the autistics, talk to the families, talk to the people in the community. If there's a small business that employs an autistic, talk to them. Say, what have you found to be the positives and the negatives? Visit homes and schools. Talk to your community leaders. And I'll tell you something, as somebody who worked for congressmen and everything else, I can tell you this. It's not that they're not listening to you, it's they're as overwhelmed as you are. They have 100, I used to get 100 people a week coming to me with their issue. I didn't have enough hours in the day to sit down with the congressman and say to him, look, this is what we have to do. He had a million other things he had to do. But if somebody came to me and said, can he come and visit our program so he can see what we're doing? Or can he have 20 minutes to give to us to talk about our program? 99% of the time he said, absolutely. Because he then could then work with that. But if you go to him, look, we're having all these problems, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't, staff can't take on everybody's problem. And that's from local to federal. And that's true everywhere. Turning on the positivity, that's the biggest thing. I've had people come at me and Peyton and say, stop calling it awesomism because there's nothing awesome about it. And I always say the same thing. It's how you look at it. It's literally how you look at it. And I said to a mom one day, she said, my child bangs his head against the wall all the time. There's nothing awesome about that. I said, if we looked at the issues, let's just say that it was a gut health issue, because that's one of my first go-tos since I've known John Payne, is a gut health issue. And he stopped banging his head against the wall. Would that be awesome? She said, yeah. I said, okay, we just turned his autism into awesomism. Okay? We've now looked at something. Don't always just get up in the morning and go, well, we got to fix everything, because it'll never happen. You get too overwhelmed. I tend to do that. I tend to try to fix everybody's problem, and I can't. I think also, too, the biggest thing is changing the narrative with solutions. For example, a few years ago, Peyton and I were starting a podcast, and I had someone in the community say to me, if you want to get some credibility in your podcast, you need to have my friend who has written such and such book. I was like, what? My child, who is autistic, is on this podcast. If that's not credibility enough, you're looking at this wrong, okay? My child has credibility. He's lived it for 25 years, 24/7, 365. If we're going to start compartmentalizing who's allowed to speak about it, and we alienate the autistic adults, we are losing some of the best, the greatest, and the most amazing voices. Look today, Temple's up here, everybody's standing here listening to her. Why? Because she talks about her personal experiences. She talks about what works for her. May not work for all of us, but it's a starting point. And I think when we start changing that narrative, we start changing the solutions. Because when we come at it from a negative or what we're not doing right, we're not finding that solution from a positive way. We research the demographics, we look at the concerns, we develop a strategy, we follow up on results. There's a lot of concerns, such as family, money, jobs, business, schools, security, housing, personal skills. That's why I love ICAN. It's not the biggest conference. It's not trying to be the biggest conference. It's not trying to bring 1,000 people into this room so that we can say, wow, we had 1,000 people hear my speech. It's about bringing the right people that really want to make a difference, that really, truly are in it to win it, to hear their voices, to connect with each other. I'll tell you something hilarious that happened this morning. I was sitting over there with Temple because we had eaten breakfast together, me and Dolly and Temple. Peyton comes in. I said, Peyton, I want you to see Dr. Grandin. We already met her in Colorado. Peyton turns and looks at me and says, did you see Tom Island? I was like, Peyton, Dr. Grandin's here. I know. Did you see Tom Island? I'm like, yes, I saw Tom. Well, he's there with his fiance. Okay, I know. Okay, well, can you please say hi to Dr. Grandin? Yeah, hi, Dr. Grandin, how are you? Mom, Tom Island's over there. Because you know why? Because Peyton and Tom have developed a friendship. And Peyton looks at Tom as someone he can talk to and who comes up with solutions. That's what I love about ICAN. You know where I met Tom Island? ICAN Dubai. You know where I met Mercy, who's clapping right now? ICAN Dubai. You know where I met Uzma, whose son wrote this book? ICAN Dubai. We talk to each other all the time. You know why? Because we formed a community. This is a community. Our logo, if you look up there, that's our logo. Okay, it's on the banners, it's on your awards. What is that? That's a Main Street. That's a community. That's what ICAN is. It's about being a community because every single person in here has something that they are adding to the autism community in one way or another. And by adding to it, we have less issues. When you form that community, when you live in a small town, you know who to go to. Consider ICAN your small town. Consider it the people here. I've connected Dr. Payne, John Payne, with at least 3 people during this conference alone. Yesterday, I connected a woman who does online academy. She has an online academy. Well, one of the gentlemen who lives here, Andre, guess what he does? He takes old computers, has autistics rebuild them, and then gives them out for free. There you go. You take someone who doesn't have a computer, you put them with the organization that teaches to somebody that we're now filling that issue because one of the issues she's dealing with is the families that don't have computers. That's what ICAN is for. It's not about, Peyton and I sell t-shirts, in fact, Peyton has it on, fight for the cause, not for the applause. This is not about applause, this is about helping the cause. This is about really changing lives. And that's why when we look at the concerns, our solution is each other. One of the things that I love here, and I took Dolly to, is the Mephibo House. They're over, if you're from here, you know Northland Church. Northland Church has an organization called the Mephibo House. It is for the special needs, autistic, special needs adults. Dolly and I went and visited it. They do gardening, they do art, they teach them money, they do everything. Okay, so here's the thing. You live in a community, you have your worship, whether you go or not, or you have small churches. Why reinvent the wheel? Why not talk to Mephibo House and say, what worked for you? How can we make this work? And by the way, we don't really have the funding except for we have volunteer time. What is your solution? They will tell you because then you don't have to spend 6 months finding out what works, what doesn't work, okay? There are booths in there. Every single person with those booths has an answer to some issue that you're dealing with. Go to those booths. Don't just walk by them and say hello. Go to those booths. Talk to those people at the booths. Get their cards, follow up on it. Uzma and I used to sit on the phone like 3 hours a day, okay? Literally. We don't now because I was busy with this, but we will again, okay? When you go to the media too, there's podcasts. Danielle's sitting in the front row. Her and AJ, they have a podcast. I promise you, they're always looking for guests, okay? Team Awesomism works with 2 different podcasts. Gage, sitting over there, has a podcast. He's always looking for guests. You want to talk to somebody? It's not that hard. Go to these podcast hosts. Say, I'd like to do a roundtable even. And bring 3 or 4 of you on here from and talk about it. It's easy, folks. It's not that hard. And it doesn't always require money. Get your venues. A lot of people, okay, for the Americans in the room, the Small Business Administration provides free mentorship programs. You may not even know that. They ask you what your business is, what thing. They'll go find a retired person and they'll mentor you for free. For free. When we started Team Awesomism, my mentor was an attorney. You think I wasn't picking his brain every other day? Okay, because it was saving me a lot of money. Okay, so when we look at like these unemployment rates, we can talk about it every day, all day. And Emil brought up, this is worldwide, this unemployment, right? This isn't just here in the US, this is everywhere. Emil focuses on it. He worries about it. He's in South Africa. Again, our community doesn't have to be where we live. It's what we do and what our passion is. ICAN is about doing it. It is about making this your community and making it work. The research, if you live in a small area, talk to your local news channels. Talk to your local radio shows. Guess what? They're almost always looking for somebody different to come on. That's what you do. I mean, I can't say enough that there are 100 resources sitting in this room right now. Danielle came up to me and talked to me about something. I said to her, you know what? I'll tell you one of my solutions to it is, there are a lot of retired people that are looking for something to do. Let's team up the retired with the autistics. Let's put them together, because when we do, you are now changing 2 sets of lives. Those who are sitting in retire, and in Florida, trust me, every other block is a 55-plus community. Okay, but this is worldwide. My husband got forced into early retirement. Wasn't necessarily his choice, but we changed the economy in the United States. And he got forced into, he was looking for something to do. Now, we can all go and ask Cowboy Jack to do something because he has nothing to do with his time besides shoot videos, work full time, have 2 children. But, you know, one thing that John, his real name is John, although I still always call him Cowboy Jack, although I do have him in my phone as John. Cowboy Jack talked about yesterday that's extremely important. That what I have said to him is the suicide rate among autistic adults is very high. And when he said, be that friend, that's what he's doing. He's filling a need. So you're sitting there looking at somebody doing videos, and if he sends that person a sticker to put on their car, they feel cool. This guy who has hundreds of millions of views, send him a little sticker, right? They put it on their door. We started a program with Team Awesomism that'll be on our app. It's called the Pen Pal program. It's from an autistic adult who's blind in one eye, deaf in one ear, and mid-functioning. All he wants to do is help other people. So he's going to send out birthday cards to the autistic adults who don't get birthday cards. He's going to send out caring cards to autistic adults who don't feel like anybody cares. It's really not brain surgery, trust me. It's just 20 minutes of time talking to the right people. We have a group of us, and honestly, there's only 2 of us in it that aren't on the spectrum. Me and another mom, and she has 5 kids, 3 are on the spectrum. All the rest are, and they are problem solvers. You'd be amazed how when you go and talk to them, Chris is here, Gage is here, Peyton is here, they're all in this group, and we have 4 other ones that are all a part of that group. We come to them with an issue, they give us back the solution. Start looking at things from the perspective of tiny, make it bigger, because you know what? Every single thing that Team Awesomism does can be done all across the world. It's not really that hard. It's really not. It's called, and I've had people say to me, well, I don't have the time. And I say the same thing every time. I was a single mom of 4 kids, 1 on the spectrum. I homeschooled, I work full-time, and I spent a lot of hours in court divorcing my ex-husband. I had a lot of stress in my life. I found time. It's what your priority is. And if you're here at ICAN, I know you have that priority to find that 20 minutes a week. And it may just be a phone call with Danielle saying, can I come on your podcast? And she says, sure. When does it work for you? And all of a sudden, other people hear your story. Other people then reach out to Danielle and to you. So look at everybody in this room and realize we are a community, we are a network, we are friends. Uzma said yesterday, we took a picture with Nina and me, and we all met at ICAN, okay? And she said, this is our tribe. It is. It is. There is so much here that we can benefit from. Look at the positives, because guess what? At the end of the day, it really is awesomism, because they're amazing, and we need to look at it that way. Thanks.
Welcome all the panelists, Dr. Temple Grandin, Dr. Alok Sharma, Ms. Lynne White, Dr. Richard Bowles, Thomas Silent, Ms. Stacey Hoagland, Ms. Elizabeth Bonker.
I've been to all the tech companies, Microsoft, been there, Google, a lot of the other, Apple, and there's all kinds of autistic people there.
35% of autistics cannot use speech for communication. I learned to type at age 5.
I stopped talking for 6 months, but I was also absorbing information like a sponge.
I'm a geneticist, so that's what I focus on. It can teach you what things that can help to mitigate the problem.
One of the things right now that's a big push right now is how hyperbaric medicine can affect autism, or positively, right? And hyperbaric oxygen therapy is one of the best anti-inflammatories.
We are treating younger children at about 3 with stem cell therapy. Within 6 months, they are going off the spectrum.
Every person that I ever met with autism, they all want to be a valuable member of society, to have a quality of life that every human wants to have.
This is going to be a very unique panel discussion. I mean, we've got such distinguished people here coming from different backgrounds, different specialities, different age groups, different everything. This is an open discussion. It's open questions for all of you. But I'd like to kickstart the discussion by asking Temple, the autism that was there in your age group, or that Bill Gates describes, and the autism that you see now, could you share with us, what do you think, what is the difference?
Well, I had definite speech delay, absolutely definite. Some of the things that have been discussed that might be possible causes didn't exist. I'm 77 years old, and then I'm thinking back to when I was a child and when I was young, people that would have been called Asperger's, where there's no speech delay. A lot of these grandparents that come up to me and talk to me, they're old enough that some of those other things wouldn't have caused it. And what I got to thinking about all of this, like there was some very severe stuff discussed, there's a lot of people where they're just slightly geeky. I think they've always been here. So is autism increased detection or something else? I think it's both. And I think on this real mild end, some of the people I worked with in these shops, they wouldn't have had speech delay, but they would have been taking shop classes. And I think all the screen time has made a lot of stuff worse. But then you get into remains nonverbal. That's very severe. Regression at age 13, Then you have the kids that regress at age 3. Some of those kids, how are those different? That needs to all be looked at really carefully. It was interesting in the genetics talk, it said genetics, but then in some trigger. But there were plenty of people from my generation that would have been the Asperger type, where there's, and I know that's not used anymore, no speech delay. My father was probably one of them. He also had allergies, and then we both have eczema and skin rashes. I have Meniere's disease that I managed to get into remission. That's autoimmune. I think we need to separate out the, might say, the Asperger type from much more severe, where there's a lot of other things wrong with them. And now I do know in my generation there's always been kids that were just labeled mentally retarded. Yeah, now those have always been around too. But I think we need to be looking into all of these things. And I'm recommending let's limit the screen time. I was very happy to see a little 3-year-old glued to the window of the plane last night. We were coming in when it was dark and all the lights were on. Not glued to a phone. A lot less screen time, a lot going back to some 1950s, just teaching some basic social skills. And then the ones that are slightly geeky are going to do a lot better. Because these grandparents I talked to all had jobs, decent jobs. They managed to keep them. But where it helped was with relationships, getting a diagnosis. And it probably would have helped my father. I'm almost positive he was on the spectrum. No speech delay. That's maybe a very different thing than some of this much more severe stuff. And the first thing I want to do is take the data and divide it and start doing some categories, like a multivariate analysis on the data, to see how it breaks out into categories. And there's just all the discussion about Kennedy. Well, we both might be right. You see, on one part of the spectrum, I think it may be just increased detection, but some of this more severe stuff, some of these other factors may be involved.
If I may. Oh, and I'm what I like to call a zennial. I have Generation X's work ethic and millennials' tech savviness. I was born during the Star Wars years, like late 1983. I just aged myself there. But I also see some of the development of how autism has appeared over the years. For instance, when I was first diagnosed, or even before I was diagnosed, I stopped talking for 6 months when I was about 2 years old. But I was also absorbing information like a sponge. So when I finally spoke again, I was ready to wring that sponge out. I could read, write, spell, rearrange magnetized letters on the refrigerator into words. I would rewind Sesame Street over and over again, my favorite parts of movies. We've really come a long way since thinking that Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man is the definition of autism, or at least that's what they had to work with back then. You didn't need to have an intellectual disability, mental retardation, whatever you want to call it. In the mid-90s, that was when diagnostic criteria changed, and I was officially diagnosed then with mild autism. Yes, the term Asperger's syndrome was thrown out there, but my formal diagnosis was mild autism.
Back in the 80s, you had to have speech delay to be autistic.
6 months of non-speaking, that was considered a speech delay. So I fit the bill, more or less officially, but it was also really an eye-opener. So that explains why I rewind videos, why I do what I do. So having knowledge of that diagnosis, understanding how it came to be, and what I'm going to do about it. This is the hand I've been dealt. I don't want to change in the sense that if you were to say there's a cure for autism, you want it? I'm saying no, because I am who I am, and I wouldn't be who I am without autism. And like I said, belief in yourself. Mm-hmm. In your own time and space.
Well, so this is an open discussion. Anybody can jump in. So, Taita, do you want to talk about some of your work?
Sure, I'm happy to. So just to give you a quick overview, as you kind of probably heard from me, I'm a pediatrician. I have cerebral palsy, was born in 28-weeker, 18 surgeries later. Here I sit by the grace of God as a pediatrician and a hyperbaric medicine physician. But one of the things that I do, I run a facility all across the United States and abroad doing hyperbaric medicine for special needs individuals, for both children and adults. I've treated all indications for hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the 17 that are approved in the US, and over 65 internationally. One of the things right now that's a big push right now is how hyperbaric medicine can affect autism, or positively, right? And hyperbaric oxygen therapy is one of the best anti-inflammatories out there available, better than prednisones, better than anything else like that. The big key, before I go into a little bit more, I'll take 2 minutes, it's important to note that correct type of hyperbaric chamber is necessary, right? As the president of the American College of Hyperbaric Medicine and a key opinion leader in that space, it's making sure that we don't have a lot of these soft shells and the misunderstanding of how to use hyperbaric medicine safely and effectively. But the bottom line is it does work because you're mobilizing stem cells through nitric oxide pathways, and you're able to see when you use hyperbaric oxygen therapy, it addresses...
You're saying the soft shells don't work?
I'm saying that a lot of them aren't as effective. Yes, ma'am. I think that there's a safety effort there. They're not covered by the FDA. People don't have the right training. They work in terms of some depth, but I think that there's a larger breadth there that has to be, make sure you're doing it effectively and correctly, right? So we see this a lot. But you'll see a lot of anti-inflammatory processes and stem cell mobilization where you have actually an 8 to 12 times increase of your stem cells, and that's why these kids are improving. And when you combine them with some of Dr. Alok and other stem cell programs, you can see dramatic improvements. And so we're seeing the same kind of testimonies that you are showing in your presentation, Dr. Loke, new speech, ability to pick up new language. It's incredible results.
Is your work published? Do you have scientific papers showing the results?
There's well over 250 published papers, both in India and across the United States. There's actually, apart from that, there are just in autism, there's over 200 published papers in terms of showing the anti-inflammatory effects and how hyperbaric medicine can mitigate and improve autism and its effects.
Richard, would you like to jump in? Genetics versus environment.
It's not versus, it's always both. The genetics is who is at risk. I mean, let's face it, no one has perfect genetics and no one has a perfect environment. But some children are being affected and other children are not, even though they're in the same, very similar environment. The difference is genetic risk. But even if you have the genetic risk, does not necessarily mean that you're going to get it. You have to have a permissive environment as well. So it's 1 plus 1. You have to have both of them. I think that a lot of people are focusing on environment, and that's great because that's something you can do something about, but not that many people focus on the genetics. I'm a geneticist, so that's what I focus on, not that it's more important, but I think it's equally important. Knowing the genetic risk can teach you what things to avoid better. It can teach you what things that can help to mitigate the problem. Knowing the environmental risk can do the same thing. So I think they're equally important.
Do you have any?
So much this entire week, right? We've heard so much about the new numbers and who's affected and who's not. And while, we definitely know that we have a greater number because physicians are better at diagnosing it, but they're getting better at diagnosing it because there's no more autism. So they're having more experience with it. I've been an educational advocate for 25 years. I have a son who's 30, who was really part of that initial bubble, if you will, where we saw significant growth. And I can certainly tell you, I work as an advocate in the 6th largest school district in this country. And the numbers of students who are in special education programs, not the kids we would have missed before, have grown so exponentially that the systems have not kept up with the numbers. And the children who are really getting what they need, whether it is through medical intervention, educational intervention, looking at housing and opportunities for employment, they're generally the kids whose parents remain the most active, because there are ways out there to be able to access the supports, but there's no silver platter. So it's really good that you guys are here because you're getting a bit of the silver platter here, but you really have to learn more as much as you can, because the services, even if somebody comes up with some like where it's from, if you will, we're still going to need to advocate for treatment, for housing, for job opportunities, for better education. So the needs to advocate is not going to decrease. If anything, it could actually increase. So I just encourage you all to do that. So I think the numbers are not just like, it's not just genetics, it's not just environmental, it's not just this type of autism versus that type of autism. I think that every person that I ever met with autism, and it doesn't really matter if they were a speaker or non-speaker. They all want to be a valuable member of society, have a job if that's what they choose, or to volunteer, but to have a quality of life that every human wants to have.
Lynn, do you want to?
I agree with everything you said, and I think one of the things that we have to do is, if we do start getting to the bottom of some of this, so to speak, is we cannot forget those who really still need us. There are way too many out there that are not getting what they need, and what I'm the most concerned about is, if they come up tomorrow and say, these are the 3 things, so we're going to turn the numbers back around, our children are here. These children are here. We have parents here who have come up to us and said, my child is 4 years old, help. Okay? We can't forget them. They're here. And I think everything she said is right. I don't work in the school system, she does, but I will tell you what I do know from on the homeschooling side, because I've been a long-term homeschooling activist, is there are a lot of parents who homeschool their children because they're frantic. It's not because they're, oh, I'm going to be a homeschool parent. It's, I don't know what else to do. And until we accept that we have to do more, I'm all about finding the solutions, but that's above my pay grade. I'm just trying to help the people that need the help.
And in that vein, I failed finishing an Ironman twice before I succeeded the 3rd time. And for those of you that don't know what an Ironman is, it's 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles of biking, and 26.2 miles of running, all in under 17 hours. And I thought I could do it in Texas, but humidity, heat, headwinds, hills, they took me down like Superman to kryptonite. I attempted it again in Des Moines, Iowa. Got the same or similar conditions. Also, I didn't have the right equipment. I realized I really had to invest not just in money like a new watch and better bike, but also putting in the time. And I too do not use functioning labels. I feel when you call someone low functioning, you discount or dismiss their strengths and capabilities. When you call someone high functioning, you discount or dismiss their needs or struggles. So in my book, functioning labels, whether you put them on yourself or you put them on others, that's the F word. Don't use it.
Temple, I'm asking you. Yeah.
Okay.
Hypothetically, let's say RKF Jr. approached you to give advice on what the government needs to do. One, to maybe reduce the incidence of autism, and second, how to manage. What advice would you give the government?
Well, I think we're going to have to go all local because basically they're running out of money.
Okay.
I've just looked at I went to several sources. I checked out our national budget. Over half of it supports seniors right now.
Okay.
Over half of our national budget. Research money in my field, and labs have been closing in a 50-year trend line.
Okay.
And we're going to have to start doing a lot more local stuff. We need to tap into these retirees to with the early intervention that we're not getting. We're 2-year wait lists, totally terrible. And I was happy to find some people I talked to at lunch where they're doing some of this with retirees. Some of these people are 20 years younger than me. They need to be working with these 3-year-olds. That's what we're going to need to do. Tap into retirees to teach an art class, teach a music class, teach a whole lot of different things. You know, I read an article the other day that cruises in golf are not all what they're cracked up to be. That was in one of the papers. We're going to have to get into the local sources. Also, over the years, I've changed my terminology. I have old publications that say high and low functioning. I can't change that.
Okay.
But my new publications, I'll call them nonverbal or non-speaking. Remain nonverbal, don't speak. Got rid of high and low functioning. Like, you know, some of the older stuff, you know, some of the activists got after me. Now, sometimes I think they can go overboard on all this jargon and things like this.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I just like to figure out really practical things. Okay, like the really nice lady right here was telling me, I like to give you an example of the kind of problem solving that I like to do. And when she was alone, she feels really scared because she's helpless. And I said, well, let's find a way for you to call somebody on a phone. Well, it has to be auditory. So we're going to just teach Siri that is one person, is another person, and then you just call on a speakerphone. You don't have to buy expensive stuff. I think they could be done with existing equipment. That's a simple thing to do. Okay, different buttons on the wheelchair that won't work. Okay, well then we don't use that. There's so many simple things. I remember one time watching a wonderful video a guy presented that showed a kid somewhere in Africa got one of those Blade Runner legs, got a pair of them. And he was just so happy out there stomping in the mud puddles. And something like that makes a lot more sense than a fancy electronic leg that's going to just break.
Okay.
It's also something they could probably make in local shops. You see, this is where a visual thinker sees solutions to problems. You see, the idea for that phone thing, it's a car phone. You say, now call so-and-so. Well, we just got to make those little abrupt sounds. Why am I picking out those sounds? Because I don't want it accidentally going off all the time. It has to be something you do very deliberately that'll make it call somebody. And I just think that stuff up. I mean, that's what visual thinkers do. I heard a solution to a problem. I also saw car phone in a car, too. The activists got all over some parent group that's called Profound Autism. And these are the people who need 24/7 care. You know where I've seen some of the best 24/7 care for really severe? Some faith-based groups. I've actually seen some very, very good programs. Benjamin's Hopes in Michigan, Brookwood in Texas. It's all private money. So some of the best programming I've seen for, I don't know what you want to call them, but these are the people that need 24/7 care. And they grow up into adults and the parents can't take care of them for the rest of their lives. You know, that's just examples of some things I've seen that really worked well. We need more of that kind of stuff.
So we'll touch on an important but sensitive topic. Tom spoke about his impending getting married, and you have chosen to live life by yourself. Between the two of you to discuss, because very often people on the spectrum who are older, they approach doctor and say, should we get a child married? What would be your advice?
Oh, there's been some very successful marriages. And the wife runs the business. No, seriously. There's been some very successful marriages. I know 2 computer programmers that got together. That's been very successful. They're both on the spectrum. And you know what they did for their engagement dinner? You got to go to a white table restaurant. You got to have candles because you got to set the stage for a super romantic discussion on computer data storage systems because they are the most interesting thing in the world. And 2 chemists got together.
Oh, okay.
Yep. There's been, some of these you intend to have nonverbal autistic kids. Yeah, there's a place for getting married. I had one parent come to me and said, my son's doing great. He got married, bought a house, going just great. If my book helped somebody to do that, I think that's really a good thing. No, they should get to do all the things that regular people do. Some of them have got kids. That's been successful. I'm a problem solver. And I think I figured out a way for you to get a phone that you can use. They'll call 2 or 3, maybe at least 2 numbers. Because I'd be anxious too if I was you and I was all by myself.
So, Tom, your views?
For my part, as far as marriage goes, there was a time I thought I wouldn't get married. And I was in a relationship with a woman on the autism spectrum, but it didn't work out. My parents, and they're still together. My mom and dad are still married after 45 years, but they live over 1,000 miles away from me. There was a time they offered me the opportunity to move up to where they were going. I said, I've built a life here. I'm going to stay. So actually, my parents, as much as I love them, being out of the equation actually helped me blossom. Yeah. I see we have some agreement. And Rosetta, she had to step out to check on an order of hers, but we had met in person 6 years ago at an event, kind of like this one. So we knew each other in person, face to face, stayed in touch online. During the pandemic, she moved to Virginia. That's where she hails from. I was in California. Then I was doing the Ironman in Maryland, the one I finished. And before that, I said, I'd like to meet you again. So we made arrangements after I finished the Ironman to meet, and we decided to get married, and we're getting married in September. And there are people in my life, unfortunately, that are thinking this would never happen. And now that it is, they are struck. Don't you think that woman is the most gorgeous woman out there, crown or not? And for someone with autism, and she's not on the autism spectrum, but I am able to make our relationship work. We have our struggles, as any couple does, but we believe that it's going to work out. And statistically speaking, only about 7% of people with autism ever get married, and even fewer stay married. So we have some resistance, some difficult spots, but our love matters. And I really wish she was here to hear me say that.
I would like to add, although that's very good, because as a pediatrician and as a person with a disability myself, I have a wife, 3 kids. One, we also adopted a special needs daughter who has Netherton syndrome from wound care side. We won't get into all that. But the point is, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the term ableism, right? A lot of times a neurotypical individual is going to say, well, back in the old days, I wanted to go to the movies. Well, we didn't want to invite Tyler because he couldn't walk up into the stairs, right? So they were trying to save my feelings because they didn't want me to fall down the stairs, for example, when really I just wanted to be invited to the movies, let's say. So the point of all this I'm making is you just got to look outside the box and allow, there's a lot of blessings. We're all handicapped. Mind the world can see. We're all struggling with something. We all wish we could change something about ourselves, and that's the whole point about whether you're on the spectrum or not, right? But I think it has very much, we have to combat ableism in this country. Going back to what I would say to RFK, if it was for me or for anybody else with a disability, is when we lose value in people, we start to fail. And I think that's where the slip is, even though maybe some of his comments, in his mind, he was actually trying to help. I want to believe that, right? He was talking about the severe autism where they're never going to get married. I mean, I see these kids. So do you, Dr. Sharma. So do you, the occupational therapist. That's a real thing that we deal with, and these parents are looking for hope. So I don't want to say that by any means he's inherently evil, but it's a crass comment, and realizing and finding people's value and how they navigate the world.
And people that are non-speaking, if they're in a job, know the difference between real work and stupid little busy work. And the other place where I've seen some really great programs is when the chairman or the president of a company has a child with a disability. I've forgotten the name of the man that did the warehouses at the Walgreens pharmacy, the distribution warehouses. He changed the computers so you didn't have to read, and the crews with the intellectual disabilities did better than the so-called regular people working in these warehouses. You see where the top does it. I went and I visited a plant in Mexico that actually had a very good program. There was a guy there that had, he said we had a boardroom meeting, and he said, well, I have Asperger's, and I now support my family. I support my sick grandmother. He was very proud of that. They put boxes together. Well, they had a marble stair in their corporate office. 3 people carried the wheelchair upstairs. It sort of was just the attitude of doing it in the middle of Mexico. Again, an owner of a company that has a child with a severe disability makes stuff like this happen.
So about 35% of autistics cannot use speech for communication. These non-speakers can learn to type. I learned to type at age 5. It's never too late to teach a non-speaker to type. With typing, we can be educated and live productive lives. Please read to your children. They understand what you are saying. You are teaching them to read. There are now thousands of typers around the world, graduating from college. You need to work on these body issues. Thank you to all the doctors. You cannot learn if you feel terrible. Regulation issues affect so many of us. We are working on getting non-speakers out of fight or flight. Communication and regulation for all. You can do this, parents. We appreciate all you do for us, even if we can't say the words. Non-speakers suffer in silence. Please use Communication for All to teach them to type free of charge. We have stencil sets to give you so you can give your child a voice, and we have them over here for after the presentation. First come, first serve, we want to give them away. C4A Academy is our program of instructional videos. You can do it. We are all human beings who want to connect. We don't want to be left alone. Take us out to museums and for walks in nature. You can learn from parents who have walked the path and autistics who live the life. Non-speakers have a motor disorder, not a cognitive one. We want to have relationships of all kinds. We are just like you. Look beyond our differences. Please believe your children have gifts for the world. The world will be a better place when all non-speakers can communicate and share their gifts. There are more than 30 million non-speakers in the world and only a few thousand typers. Please join our mission to change this. Most non-speakers are diagnosed with intellectual disability, and we have a motor disorder. Don't believe the IQ tests. We need to learn to type to show you what we know. Giving an iPad with a picture exchange system is not enough. We need 26 letters to express ourselves and be educated. Please watch the Spellers movie on YouTube. It will show you how typing changes lives from hopeless to hopeful. Profound autism conflates non-speaking with intellectual disability wrongly. Non-speaking doesn't equal non-thinking. Teach them to type. We are all interdependent. I was extremely self-injurious and have great empathy. Please don't give up hope. The right doctor can help. A virus triggered PANS, an autoimmune reaction. It is serious and needs expert treatment. Parents, keep pushing the medical science. You are the expert on your child. Find doctors that believe autism is a treatable condition.
This question is for Dr. Bolts. This is about the supplements that you had shared earlier. Is there a protocol to wean off the clients or patients who are using them, or is it more like a lifelong usage of these items?
I think that depends on why the supplements are started in the first place. If they're started because you want to improve your concentration and focus a bit, and then you do it on your own or go to an environment in which that's not necessary, then you can decrease it. But for the most part, autism was present at conception, at least the genetic component of it, and the neurological part was present in very early life. And most people continue these supplements for a long time. I do want to mention one thing that from earlier is that when we're talking about autism, we're talking about an extremely wide spectrum. And on one side, you have the billionaires, and obviously they are employed and they are getting married, and they are thinking of themselves as neuro-unique and not disabled, and that's very, very valid, and they are actually offering a tremendous amount for society. And on the other end of the spectrum, as a pediatrician, I see people that have very severe intellectual disability, who have abilities of a 3-year-old when they're intellectually while they're an adult. Maybe they can't even walk very well, maybe they have seizures, maybe they have serious problems as well. And those are also with autism. And those people are not going to get married and are not going to be employed. And then there's everything in between. There's a tremendous spectrum. And so it's really hard to talk about everything on the same spectrum with the same answer.
I can't stress enough how much people underestimate the autism population. Yep. We are overlooked, we are undervalued, and unfortunately we believe what we are told, sometimes too much. When we're told we can't do something, we internalize it, we believe it, and we stick with that. It took a lot of me to get out of my own way and realize I don't have to listen to the haters. I'm going to do more with my life, and look where I'm going.
Well, one of the things the projects that were shown in the HBO movie I did in the 70s, and I wanted to prove I wasn't stupid. That was a huge motivation for me, as a lot of people, since I couldn't do higher math, thought I was absolutely stupid and I wouldn't be able to do anything. And then I discovered these other people out there that owned machine shops, couldn't do higher math either, and were on the autism spectrum, and they had really good businesses and 20 patents. That made my day when I discovered them.
How would you respond to people with autism or their family members who participate in self-isolation because of the maybe fear of judgment of going into the community, and what you would say maybe to inspire them to go into the community more and participate in the community more.
Well, Mother always had me out in the community, and she had a very good sense of how she could stretch me and the things that I'd be capable of doing. Like, for example, when we went to my grandmother's house for Sunday dinner, for my exercise, I was allowed to play Beat the Elevator, and I could run up 5 flights of stairs before the elevator got there, and that kind of run the energy out of me. Another thing they did is I only had to sit at the family table for 20 minutes. Then I could ask to be excused, but if dessert wasn't served, I didn't get any. So if I wanted dessert, I had to stay. You see, she always put some choice in there, but she had a very good sense of how much to stretch me. And she realized that big, noisy crowds were sometimes a problem, but I'm concerned that some moms just totally overprotect. They can't let go to let their kid do the most innocent things, like while you're pumping gas in the car, have the kid run in and buy some milk at the store. And I had one mom says, I don't have the guts to do that. You see, this is where the moms just can't let go at all, and they're doing everything for the child. And the kid's not learning anything. And I have a book called The Loving Push, and that was aimed at, getting these moms to get them out gradually doing things. You see, I've seen huge problems with everything being done for them, and they're not learning any skills. And we had a rule that it had to be on the list. So as soon as I knew how to write, I'd put things on the list, and I would help with grocery shopping. I'd go and get things on the list, put them in the basket. I was learning that at a very young age. Yes, and you do Walmart, for example, that's one of our big stores, when it's not so busy.
In California, where I live, I don't know if they do it here in Florida or other places, there are certain reduced sensory hours. Like you can go in between like 7, 8 a.m., less lighting, less people, a lot more better shopping experience. But I've written a book, Come to Life, Your Guide to Self-Discovery, to address getting out there. Life doesn't come to you, my friends. It's up to you to come to life. Are we keeping our kids out from out there? And also in addressing the naysayers, the people that might be holding us back in a sense. That's in my book, My Glass is Full. And these are available for sale.
Is in neuro needs, we have some people with autism that work for us, and they are in positions in which their abilities are perfect for their job. They are better than a neurotypical person at that job, because we know that they can do that, and we know autism. We just need to get the word out that these people have certain abilities that allow them to do things better than other people, that it's not charity, that employers will want to hire them. And they'll want to give them a good wage. We think that, this is what Dr. Grandin was talking about, is the way of fixing things and pictures and everything, is that they have abilities that other people don't have. We just need to get that word out.
We wouldn't have any computers without all the people in the tech industry. And I've given talks there, and half those programmers are on the spectrum. Yeah, I've been to those companies. I've sat in their fancy restaurant, watched all the nerds come in. We need the skills. See, that's the thing. At one end of the spectrum, and you've got Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Bill Gates is official now. He's on the spectrum. And he's had a very successful business. Another thing, both me and Bill Gates were taught that you give back. That was something we were both taught. I have put 23 graduate students through school paying for their masters and their PhDs. That's what I've done with the book money and speaking engagement money. And Bill Gates said you get huge amounts of money going into healthcare. We were both brought up in an era where you give back, which it's been really eye-opening for me to read his book, because so much of how we were brought up was very, very similar.
Thank you so much for all of your work that you do. And I need to emphasize that profound autism is real. Work is being done right now to put it in the DSM so that we can have a specific name for the people that will require lifetime support. And as much as, of course, we want our kids to continue to grow and to thrive and to be as independent as possible, it's very important to recognize that for some people, they are not going to be independent. And the best thing that we can do is continue to support them, have trained caregivers, because one day we're not going to be here anymore, and our kids are still going to need care. And the system is very broken for them. And it's hard. Autism is not always awesome for everyone. It's hard. And, you know, when you see kids that are beating, or adults that are beating their heads and they've lost their eyesight because they're banging their head on the wall, I mean, these are real things that they're dealing with. And so it's a big spectrum. When we adopted our kiddo that's special needs, the developmental doctor, the first thing that he told us to do was watch your movie, Dr. Grandin. And it was amazing for us. And it was very eye-opening. And the encouragement was there for him, and we are still encouraging our kiddo. But he's almost 20 years old, and he still can't use the bathroom by himself, not completely independent. He can't brush his teeth by himself, and that's a goal that he worked on the entire time that he was in school. So we have to recognize that, you know, he's not going to get married. He's not going to be able to live the same life that my other kids can live. He's not going to be able to drive a car. But any improvement that he can make towards being independent, we're going to continue to push him. I mean, he's still in therapy. He just got on a horse 2 weeks ago. We were shocked about that. We never thought he would get on the horse. We thought he's going to go and brush the hair of the horse and just be there. But no, he did. And so that improvement that he made, I mean, we're thrilled, and we're going to continue to do that. But we also have to prepare him and his brothers and sisters that, you know, he's going to need care after we're gone. So I just wanted to say that remember, and I appreciate everybody's positivity, but remember that for some people, they have kids and family members with profound autism that are going to need lifetime care.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. In my talks, one of the things I talk about all the time is we're going from Einstein that somebody is going to need, you know, constant care, 24/7 care. You see, this is one of the problems. And it's such a big spectrum, all with the same word on it. And I totally agree with you. And every talk I do, I make a point of, some of the activists attack the term profound autism. And I'm not the one who's attacking it.
People that have the loudest voice are putting in the input, but the people that can't speak and their caregivers, God bless them, are tired. I mean, it's all you can do to pay the bills and take care of a person, change adult diapers, emergency room visits. Nobody wants to babysit, so you can forget, like, going places. It's hard. So those people are left out of the research and the statistics. And so it's important for us as the autism community as a whole to remember that 27%.
Okay, now I'm very interested in the 27%.
That's profound autistics.
Okay, where that figure came from. Just from my experience, I'm pretty sure that's correct.
I was just at the Profound Autism Summit last week in Boston, and that was the figures that they gave, and I trust
But
that.
I've seen parents just completely stressed out. I remember one respite program they had in Texas, and the family was so stressed out, they just put the music on in their air-conditioned car and just laid there for 4 hours. That was how stressed out they were. 4 hours of respite, and this is very different than somebody like me or somebody like Bill Gates. It's a totally different thing. And then you have some that are kind of medium that may not be totally independent, but they can do a lot of life skills. It's such a big spectrum.
I really believe that what we need is more people that care, more people that don't have autism, that care, like teenagers and, like you said, seniors, that can help parents, that are trained, that there just needs to be more compassion in our society, and I feel like that should be a part of the message that the autism community is putting out there.
Well, the other problem we got was certain advocates, the autistic community, they attacked me, they've called me ableist, they've called me bad things. You know, some of it, they just put so much venom out there,
right,
that you're not actually getting things done. One of the things that 25 years, you gotta remember I'm 25 years in the construction industry, and I have found that it affects how I think about things. You have to build things and solve problems and not just talk about it. You got to do stuff. You got to get projects done. You got to make them work. You got to not fight everybody. You don't get jobs done doing that.
It is to support children like yours that I made that comment that didn't go over well. That autism is a very large spectrum. I see kids that appear to be profound. Some of them become mild autism because of the right treatment. Sometimes we find the exact gene and they get much better. Some of them become moderate autism, but some of them stay profound, even if we find the gene. Some of them we can't help today in 2025, no matter what we do. And you're right, the community is not really supporting them to the degree that perhaps that we should. And we need to consider them as well as the others.
I need to just add something. You said there's no research on profound autism.
Very little, like 6%. They're like
But
people with
no,
profound
just to
autism.
let you know that we are actually doing intense research through brain scans. So we are doing PET CT scans, and we are noticing that those children and adults with profound autism have a very different type of hypometabolism in the brain. So we are able to, through brain scans, separate the mild from the moderate from the severe. And we are also able to, we can also see which parts of the brain are working more and what special skill sets they could possibly have. So today, especially in the neuroimaging world, the focus is shifting from what they cannot do, the brain that is not working properly, to what they can do. And as you know, in all the talks, including what Temple spoke about and Tom spoke about, once we identify what is the thing that they are specially connected to, feel about, and then give them coaching in that, they do miracles. Now the treatments that we have, the treatment that Titler said, hyperbaric oxygen, our own treatment with stem cell therapy, we are able to help the people with profound autism as well, because the stem cells go and repair that part of the brain which is damaged. And we are seeing non-verbal, see, there's no question about the improvement. A child who's non-verbal for 8-9 years starts talking, Now there is no question about whether it worked or not, because you're non-verbal, and surprisingly, among the first things that the children say, they tell their mothers, "I love you, mommy." We've got dozens of kids where among the first things that comes out is expression of love. It was just bottled up inside, and it actually gets expressed. Yes, there is work being done. Those distinctions are happening, and it is likely that in the future, the combination of stem cells with hyperbaric oxygen and rehab will possibly help the children.
I want to make a quick comment to you.
Go ahead.
One thing you didn't say in what you just talked about with profound autism, you voluntarily took that on, which is amazing. Not a lot of people would do what you did.
Thank you for your contribution.
So that's
Rosetta.
a lot.
You're on, Rosetta.
We are here because we're together, right? Because we love one another. We're talking about autism. These great people on this panel have different views, different point of views. Remember, we look at life different ways. Each person brings something great to the table. So let's respect every person on the panel, and everyone here is being respected. The thing I would like to point out is that I remember going to Tanzania, and Tom and I was talking with a lady there. She said the moment her son was born, her and her husband was told he would never be married. She would never have grandkids. Now, for my experiences being a nurse, I'm not a nurse now, I'm a motivational speaker, but I was a nurse. So I know what it's like to change diapers. I know what it's like to take care of someone. But I also know patients that are unestimated. So it's very important, no matter what you're told about your child or your loved one, never set the bar so low that you keep it there, that you miss something great about your loved ones. I love y'all. Thank you for your time.
So 2 days ago, we went to our neurologist, and we were trying to understand, is there a way of defining physically in the brain autism? And she said no. She provided certain suggestions, and we felt so bad that we didn't tell her that 2 weeks before we have had stem cell treatment in India. So there's such a bad perception in the US, unfortunately. And one of the things that she said is there's no research. In our minds, like, Dr. Sharma has all the research in the world. Specifically, she pointed out to Duke University. Duke University is the one that has done the most studies in the US, but they only do stem cell treatments for kids with cancer. So my suggestion and pledge, Dr. Sharma, how can we let the world about your research? And I know you have it. You are open to give it to anyone who wants that. What can we do, us here, to help the world know about the success of your treatment?
Whether it's leaders, politicians, regulators, they finally listen to people. You're the real voice. You are what is real. All of us, some of us, have professions, some of us have a conflict of interest, some of us have particular preferences or beliefs, but parents have one and only one thing in their mind, the well-being of their children. Is there anything else that you can even think of? Nothing. So your voice is the voice that will be heard. And when you speak it loud enough and repeat it enough, there will be a change. Change comes about when people like you speak out. Because, we believe our own clinical experience is showing us that when we are treating younger children at about 3 with stem cell therapy, within 6 months they are going off the spectrum. The older the child, the longer it takes. And it is my hope and dream that one day this becomes a standard of care. The moment it is diagnosed, especially kids who are profound, will need it. There are children who will not need it. There are a whole lot of children who are mild, who adapt and who get along with life very well. But not everyone. There will be what she's talking about, the profound kids who need help. There's something called a hole in the heart. Kids with Down syndrome have a hole in the heart. If you have a hole in the heart, you fix it. The cardiac surgeon will go and do something and fix it. So if there is severe and profound damage, it needs to be fixed. And what we are seeing is that once you fix that, whether it's hyperbaric oxygen, whether it's whether it's the supplements that he was talking about, whether it's the stem cell I talk about, whether it's the rehab he talks about, in my lecture I said it all works together. So your voice is the voice that will be heard. Anybody else, any questions?
I have one question. I'm watching with the gentleman behind me who is telling about that. Even my neurologist did not believe when we started the stem cell therapy for my son. But after 3 or 4 visits to India to the neurogen, the changes she saw in the kid, it's unbelievable. My son is the same patient for last 6 to 7 years with the same neurologist, with the therapies and everything. The development, what she saw after stem cell therapy is totally different. We could able to make understand the neurologist, but the school system did not understanding us actually. Some of my friends, when they go to this kind of a different kind of a therapy out of the book, which is not profound in very popular in USA, they're not even going to tell in their schools actually. They're telling that we're going to vacation for 5 days, 6 days. We did the same thing. We went to the school. I said my kid got help. If somebody needs help, you call my number, I'll tell them the same thing. I told every parent who called me, and I given the number, I told him that what are the benefits which my kid got. I feel if we don't keep the awareness of these things, of different methods, it is impossible to help the whole community. The community needs help. We have to be together to help the system. Because if the system doesn't help, we have to come up from our own side from here and help the system.
My son can see a video now.
Yeah.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And by God, he's following the video for the first time in his life, touching his head, his shoulders, his knees, and toes. He can say 3 weeks out of a stem cell. He can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, even though he has apraxia, and sometimes he closes his mouth to talk. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we practice that every day. It's a miracle. It's science.
But
there's science behind it.
You tell the doctor in the U.S., and there's where is that coming from? We feel uncomfortable telling them because they tell us there's no research. And that's why even though we speak up, we feel outcast. Because that's the system in the U.S. today. It punishes anyone that does any research outside the United States. They don't consider that research. It's I haven't seen any research. Neurologist practicing over 20 years.
His pediatrician who didn't believe started believing after she saw the improvements. Go back and say, this is the improvements. Your child was not talking. He's talking within 3 weeks of the stem cell therapy. There is no rocket science to it. A child not talking, start saying ABC till Z after 3 weeks, that's a positive sign. Let the world know it. Speak up for it, and then slowly things will change, you know.
And
we
if
now have the present health secretary, R.K. Jr., he has actually tweeted about stem cells and hyperbarics. He's actually tweeted that these are things that were intentionally suppressed. He says it openly. He says these were suppressed by the FDA. The health secretary of the United States is saying that treatments like hyperbaric stem cell and all these other nutraceuticals, he mentions nutraceuticals, were intentionally suppressed. So when you speak up, they will listen. People do listen to parents.
Yes, and what I did is, I did not listen to any of the parents or anything. I keep on stressing that, yes, we are treating with the same thing, we are treating with the same thing. We will be integrating with the other therapies, yes, but we're not going to leave that. If you think it is not helping, it is your opinion, but not my opinion. I'll do the good thing what my kid needs. I'll stand up for my kid.
The gentleman had a question.
What does the solution look like? Can come from a place of curiosity and discovery rather than who's using language itself. Ask for more discovery about why they were guided in language that way. And maybe, just maybe, instead of just seeing a lot of trees in Kansas during the 30s Dust Bowl trying to survive, maybe we use discovery, we have curiosity with all the groups to bring ourselves into one big collective force that can leverage the impact the world is missing. Thank you.
I think the one big thing, and I'm going to get this lady too, is I'm in Melbourne, for example. The Grassroots you hear about, it's finding somewhere locally that believes, and that's where it starts, with tremendous experience. And Dr. Sharma and I have worked together in hyperbarics for years now, right? And I go to India consistently. So you got to find the forward-thinking physicians that collaborate, that are thought thinkers and innovators. But for those of you guys who are out there, for me, Brevard Regional Hyperbaric Center, if you guys are around here locally an hour away, come see me.
Those willing and able physicians are very few. And creating some sort of inventory, some sort of Facebook page where you can access and really point out specifically these physicians. We asked our neurologists about hyperbarics. There's no research. What they should point out is the kid that died in Ohio. So they're using those small mistakes sort of to prevail these sort of veil. We need an inventory list of those physicians that are willing. And if everybody can contribute, we have one. But I think if everybody can contribute, who are those physicians that are willing to work looking at alternative medicines?
TACA has a list. If you go into the Facebook group of TACA, and then you have to submit your child, because they only accept people that has kids in the spectrum, right? And they do have a file that is always updated with doctors in the United States that are like pandas, and you can find Rossignol and Dr. Fry's names there.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Masi. I'm from Kenya. I'm a mother of triplet boys with autism. We have to believe that autism is treatable. So we are coming from a background noise that autism cannot be treated. So you get this diagnosis and you are in limbo, you struggle, and then somehow you find the light. So I found some light. We've been doing stem cells since my sons were 5.5. I mean, it has been a game changer. I have come from a state of constant clinical depression to just smiling. I mean, you also, my son, Ricky, even asked Dr. Temple a question, and I mean, that is, I never even knew he's at that space. So what am I saying? What I'm saying, especially to the parents, we have been fortunate to have all these professionals give us very fantastic talks and solutions, but as parents, what is our duty? I feel that our duty is to a call for action. Dr. Sharma said that everybody is speaking in their own space because you cannot be a jack of all trade. You see, that's why we have Dr. Richard is working on genetics and metabolism. We have the OT is working on sensory. We have Dr. Sharma working on stem cell, and so many others. So what I have done as a research, my background, I'm a research scientist, and it has really helped me because in research, we follow protocol to the dot. If you want your experiment to work, you have to follow from A to Z. That's exactly what I've done. I've taken Dr. Sharma's protocol, followed it A to C. I've taken Dr. Temple's protocol, lived experience. She stresses so much about independence and career. And I can tell you the last 2 years, her words have really shaped the way we are doing intervention for my sons. Right now, my 3 sons can all wash themselves, clean their butts, feed themselves, go to sleep, shower. They can mop the house, they can wash their clothes, brush, and now we are doing now outside independence. That's why you see like Ricky is roving all around from hall 1, A, B, C, and asking questions even I'm not there. Right now, I don't know where he is. He told me, Mom, I want to go and swim. I said, okay. I didn't even know there is a gym in this facility, but last night, Olivia, what did he say? Mom, I'm going to the gym. I asked him, did you carry gym clothes? He said, yes. And he went. So what I'm saying is that let us take what is ours. Their work is research. Let us implement. Let us take everything, not just one thing. It's all about, they have said it's research. And many parents ask me, Mercy, will stem cell work for my children? I'm like, yeah, because it's research. It doesn't know Lenny, it doesn't know your son, it has no face. It's research. Just follow the protocol. You know that stem cell cannot work on its own, work on the diet, metabolism, work on multidisciplinary neurorehabilitation, and definitely be patient. For us, it's been a journey of 8 years. Those who were in Sylvie's talk yesterday morning, they saw my son riding a bicycle, participating in a charity event to raise funds for a school of special needs, and he was actually riding in a crowded highway. I mean, I saw that, and I'm still smitten. I'm still overwhelmed. So please, parents, let's take our mat and walk. Thank you.
I wanted to ask Elizabeth what we can do to help you and your mission and the legislation, to have legislation passed in the government.
We need to fight to enforce the Americans with Disabilities Act in schools, which is something that she is desperately trying to do for families across the country who, even after they learn how to type, are being denied that accommodation in their schools. So again, there's so many things to do. Thank you for the question. That's only one of many things. But you can go to our website, communication, 4all.org, and we have a take action section. And it'll tell you about what Elizabeth is doing to try to help all those who suffer in silence.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. So we'd like to wind up now. We'll ask each panel member to give a concluding remark. Lynne?
I just think that conversations like this are what are needed. We all look at it differently, and that's what makes it right. Because if we all agree with each other all the time, the world would be a very boring place. And we each have our different needs that don't make anybody less or anybody more. We just all need to work together. And I want to say this. Meeting Elizabeth was my highlight. She's right. We have to fight. And guess what? Parents, we do know our children. And when we fight for our children, sometimes we take on a role we didn't want to take on, but at the end of the day, we can inspire other parents to fight for their children. Because I've had people say to me, I don't have your personality. I'm not willing to just take somebody on. And I say, you don't have to have my personality. You just need to believe in your child.
Thank you, please. Welcome to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Elizabeth kind of says it all up there. But just to go to what you guys were saying, just real quick for a minute, when my son was little, we got very quickly, as soon as he got diagnosed, we got into looking at bio treatments. And we did the gluten and casein-free diet. And when I took him back, because I don't know, I guess I had this thought in my head, because they keep wanting you to come back, like they're going to say something different. And so I took him back like the next year to that same neurologist. And he's like, wow, what are you doing? He looks pretty good. Like, what's happening? And I was like, well, I have him on his diet. And he's making all this tremendous progress. The doctor said to me, the neurologist, it was a neurologist, a pediatric neurologist, he said, shooting darts in the dark. And I said, hand me the dart. And so, you know, you take people's as much information as you can. You talk to people who have, who are experts in the field, and then you make the best decision you can for your family.
Some of us physicians, like myself, have been around for a while, and we've been treating autism successfully for 30 years, and you're right, the institutions still don't believe that it works. I'm trying to publish as much as I can. It's a drop in the bucket for what we need. A lot of people are doing the same. The parents need to fight. Hopefully we have an administration now that is listening. At least now they are. Maybe they'll make a difference. With autism increasing so incredibly rapidly, this is going to become a societal suicide mission if we don't immediately get off the tracks and do something about it now and take care of all the kids along the way.
Thank you.
No one tells your story better than you do. And too many of us are struggling to tell it. But when you find your voice and use it, that's when your life transforms for the better and other people's lives transform for the better. So go out there and do what needs to be done. Some of us have more work to do than others. We have come a long way, but we have a very long way to go. And I'm not much of a gardener, but I think every one of us is like a flower, and we might bloom later in life. Certain circumstances promote or stop our growth. Find the place where you can not only survive, but thrive. That's why I finished my first in Maryland. No heat, no humidity, no headwinds, no hills. I did it. You can find the place you can survive and thrive too. Go get it. Final thoughts?
Well, yeah, working on more and more independence. I definitely believe in that. Unfortunately, I'm seeing too many young adults that have become recluses in their room. That's something I was never allowed to do. You know, they were always getting me out doing things, but there was always choices. For example, when I was afraid to go to my aunt's ranch, which involved getting on an airplane and flying from New York to Arizona, there was a choice, 1 week or all summer. Not going wasn't a choice. You give some choices. Just like I talked about the kid that wouldn't put the phone in the x-ray machine. He can leave the phone at home or put it in the dog dish or put it in his backpack. Those are the choices. It goes to the airport, it goes in the x-ray, period. But there's some choice as to how you do it. And I've worked with so many people professionally that I know are on the autism spectrum. I've been to all the tech companies. You know, Microsoft, been there, Google, a lot of the other, Apple, and there's all kinds of autistic people there. You see, this is the problem we've got. At one end of the spectrum, you've got that, and at the other end of the spectrum, you've got, I'm going to call them the 24/7. These are the people that need constant care, and some of them have varying amounts of problems. And I think it's this population you may be more likely to find that some of these treatments work. I'm on a gluten-free diet now for heartburn. That only started last year. But we've got to go out and just see what we can do, because I'm seeing too many people of my type going nowhere. Way too many, because they're not learning life skills. And they're not learning work skills.
Well, I'll echo what she said. You only handicap yourself by choice, right? That's it. We're here as a physician that's devoted my life to doing this as well. We're here, and I think you just have to find your village. You guys know that, but at least locally, if I could be an asset to you an hour away or around, let us know. And you're looking at a panel that believes the same thing. It's not pseudoscience. It is grounded in science. We're just forward way thinking and combining it all, as Dr. Sharma said, it's a multifactorial approach. And when you do that, combining all these different modalities, you can see dramatic miracles in your kids' lives. And every study that you look at with hyperbaric oxygen therapy, stem cells, no matter what, just like in my own life, it all showed improvement in quality of life. And is that now all we're all looking for? That's exactly it. So find your doctors, find the people that believe in you, and go get it.
So thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for being a wonderful audience. We want you to know that as parents of children on the spectrum, you, for those of us professionals here, are our inspiration, our motivation. You are the wind below our wings that keeps us doing what we are doing, because very often the work we do is in the face of stiff opposition and resistance. But what you need to know is all of us in our own way, okay, whatever aspect of medicine we practice, rehabilitation we practice, will continue to do the best that we can to ensure that all the, whether they are children or adults on the spectrum, are able to be the best of what they are. We are able to bring out the best potential within them. The work that we are doing with stem cells, and we've treated over 6,000 children with autism, a total of 15,000 patients, including cerebral palsy. We have over 100 publications. So the research is there. It's just a matter of time as more and more, like your children start improving and start speaking, as more and more people get to know, this will be available everywhere. The truth, real science, real treatments cannot be hidden and suppressed forever. It will come out. And it is my belief that it's a combination of comprehensive rehab, micronutrient supplementation, rehabilitation, hyperbaric oxygen, and the stem cell that we do, and all the advice that Temple has given. If you listen to Temple, I suggest you watch her movies, you watch her podcast. She gives you very simple advice. That one advice, talk slowly, results in tremendous speech improvements. That's simple advice. So sometimes it's a very simple advice. It's not something high-tech that brings about the best results. So I want to thank all the panel. Thank you for the wonderful discussion. Thank you for being here. And thank you very much. I thank Dolly, thank you for arranging everything. Lynn, thank you for being the co-host of the conference. You two guys have done a great job. Thank you.